I'm Paulina Leiser, producer of Focus Today. Thank you for watching this video, and make sure to check our other videos at theDove.us.
Welcome back. Well, ladies and gentlemen, buckle your seatbelts. We have him back. Yes, he is the judge of all things, the discerner of truth and evil, the conveyor of religious political correctness, and he's the host of Wretched TV and radio. Here he is, Mr. Todd Friel. Hi, buddy.
I'm the Pope? What was that introduction? That was a little overblown, don't you think?
Well, I'm just trying to see if you're awake.
Well, I am.
How are you, buddy? Good to see you.
I'm doing great. Hey, can I share something with you before we go?
Yeah, sure.
All right. So I'm staying in a hotel. Hold on, I'll come back. I'm staying in a hotel, which is the only reason that I read USA Today. I don't know if you can see this. It is actually a review of a brand new Broadway musical based on the life of John Newton. Oh. It's not a spoof. It's not a satire. Do you see it right there? He's singing and dressed up like John Newton would be dressed up. And this was a review, and it was a pretty straightforward review because the musical itself is basically biographical. Perry, I read the most interesting quote. I want to share this with you. Sneer, laugh if you must, but it could be argued that in 2015, on Broadway, it's more irreverent to promote such beliefs than it is to satirize their practice. Huh? I thought that was a staggering insight. Years ago, even a decade ago, what would have been edgy and cool on Broadway would be to make fun of Christians. Yeah. Now what's edgy is to present Christianity in a true historical light. That's more offensive today. I thought that was staggering.
Progress, man.
Well, if you mark progress by going backwards, you are correct, sir.
Back to the future. Well, listen, we got some good things to get into today. And, I was trying to figure out how to ask you the beginning question. I can't really seem to formulate it in my mind because we want to deal with, as Christians, we are never to judge. But I'm wondering if we're being intimidated by political correctness by using our own words to do nothing.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, these days, when it comes to the issue of judging, there is like just two ditches that we fall in. One, and the first ditch would be, judge not, lest you be judged. Now, that's a Bible verse that we would expect unbelievers to misquote, but even Christians use that to drub anyone who says, I don't think that was right. So the question is, what was Jesus saying when he said, judge not, lest you be judged? Well, first of all, judge not, lest you be judged is a judgment statement. So he couldn't have been outlawing all judging. Furthermore, just a few verses down, he starts judging people. So he can't be saying that we can never judge. Furthermore, it would be impractical to never judge. You could never go to Taco Bell and actually determine what you want to eat if you can never judge anything. So what was Jesus getting at? He was saying, judge, and by the way, like he also says in John, I believe, chapter 7, judge with righteous judgment. We are to be discerners. Think about the book of 2 Peter chapter 2. It's all about judging false teachers. The entire book of Jude is about judging false teachers. We're supposed to judge. We are supposed to judge one another, but not snooty tooty. Oh, so Perry thinks that it would be a good idea to vote for Donald Trump, does he? No, that's not how we're supposed to judge. We're supposed to judge biblically, lovingly, taking the beam out of our own eye, approaching things humbly, because the desire is to actually correct lovingly and not just rub somebody.
But that term has been shoved down our throat to neutralize us to accept everything.
Yeah, there's some pithy responses. You could simply say, are you judging me? Because, that's ultimately what they're doing. These days, it's increasingly hard. The attention span of a human being on our planet, thanks to Vines, thanks to videos, 6-7 seconds. So it's kind of hard to open up Matthew 7 and explain what Jesus was and wasn't saying. But we do have to instruct, we have to teach people. And if somebody's not going to even have a conversation allowing you to make any sort of judgment calls, you're probably not engaged in the right conversation.
What's the right motive when judging? What should be the right motive when judging?
To feel better about yourself. Is that wrong? Wait, hold on.
Yeah, to elevate yourself.
No, it's not. It's to make sure that the truth is upheld. That's what. Actually, there's a lot of things that are involved with judging. I always think of 3 issues that are at stake when it comes to judging and confrontation and discussing differences of opinion. Number 1, this is about a love for the truth. What is right? What is wrong? God is truth. That's what he is. He doesn't write truth and then adhere to that standard. He actually is truth. So truth is important to him. So if we love truth, we're going to talk about issues and defend it. But second, if we love God, who is truth, we are going to defend truth because we want to make sure that he is portrayed and displayed correctly. But third, Perry, and this is, I think, one that we forget about, which really is the thing that should drive our motive and how we talk about these issues. I have a love for people. I have a love for that person that I'm talking to. I don't want them to be wrong. I don't want them to go to hell. So I'm motivated by those 3 things. Underlying it all is compassion.
All right. Part of this equation, Todd, when we are judging, are we judging prematurely without taking time to discern?
Oh, wow. Ready, fire, aim! That's what we do all the time. We just... And a lot of it is based on our opinion of the person. Let's take Donald Trump. Please. Let's take Donald Trump for an example. He just was saying something about... We all heard the comment about Megyn Kelly. He said something... He was in an interview and he said... Megyn Kelly was so upset she had blood coming out of her eyes or something, and then he went on to talk. Well, people thought that he was making a very crude, inappropriate remark, and Donald Trump's response was, "No, I wasn't. I was just like, let's move on to the conversation. So it's coming, blood is coming out of something. Let's go." And that was his explanation. Now, the question for the Christian is, do I accept that explanation or not? And this has huge implications for us as parents. My opinion about Donald Trump is probably going to determine if I buy his defense or not. Do I like him? Do I think that he's too snarky? I love his policies, the whole immigration thing. We need a fresh breath of air in Washington. Now the guy's just a windbag. That will determine whether or not I judge his defense of himself to be valid or not. And as a Christian, I run to 1 Corinthians 13, which tells me I'm going to believe all things, hope all things, trust all things. Now, I grant you that's for Christians, but I think the application is even for unbelievers. I want that to be true. I desire for that to be true. I don't want Donald Trump to be a lout. I want it to be true, so I accept his explanation. Unless I'm giving compelling evidence to the contrary, I accept it. Believing all things, hoping for the best, and moving on. Now, Perry, tell me that doesn't have application for our kids. When our children do something, we have a tendency to judge them based on their reputation. Now, I grant you, if the child says, "I didn't eat the Hershey bar," and he's got chocolate smudged all over his face, okay. But if your child is telling you something, we hope it's true, even as we investigate whether it is indeed the truth.
What about prove all things?
Oh, sure. That we do want to do that because we want to get to the truth. But there's a difference of, come on, tell me the truth, you little chocolate thief. Tell me. Okay, that's because I know you did that. That impression was pretty good because I practiced that over the years.
You got one at home.
Okay, that's different than, honey, God is truth. And we want to make sure that we are never lying or even shading the truth on anything. So let's talk about this another time, okay, honey? Because I want to believe you, but you got chocolate all over your face. So let's talk about it. It's just my attitude that I engage with.
All right. Let me take a break here. When we come back, we're in this political hot season, Todd. And why can't we judge what we're listening? Why can't we look at this? And the other thing is, there's got to be some discernment. Now, as a guy who ran the Oregon Republican Party for 4 years, I have some political discernment, okay? And I can use that political discernment to judge the motive of what's being said by some of these candidates. Is that okay? Okay, hold on to that look. We'll be right back with Todd Friel. Check it out, Wretched TV. He's the man. Hi, welcome back, and what a delight always to have with us Todd Friel. He's the host of Wretched TV, Wretched Radio. In fact, Wretched TV, prime time right here on the Dove TV network, and turned out to be a good friend. We really appreciate what he does, and one of the great apologists of our day. We're talking about judging, and I just think this is a fascinating topic because as Christians, we're told by non-Christians we're not to do it. You know, that we pretty much cow down to that. And you very succinctly bring in discernment. We got to have discernment when we do this. But we're in the heat of this political season, and is it okay to judge these guys? And these guys?
You know, absolutely. And two, I think we need to start with an understanding of what discernment is biblically. This is what discernment is not. You know, I just have a feeling that you're going to marry that nice girl who's in the junior high class. I've got the gift of discernment. Okay, that's not discernment. You can have a feeling, but that is not discernment, sensing that, you know, I just have a feeling that something bad is going to happen on this trip. Well, that's a feeling, but that's not the biblical gift of discernment. Discernment is gray matter being applied to a situation. And it's determining these days, not between true and false, but determining the difference between true and the almost true. That's the gift of discernment, taking my wisdom, whether it's biblical, whether it's political, whether it's economic, whatever the issue is, and applying it rightly to the situation. And we, of all people, should be the best discerners there are. We shouldn't shy away from it. It always gets me when I see Christians holding conferences where they bring in unbelievers to teach us about, well, virtually anything. It's like, are you kidding me? They should be coming to us to say, how do you do that? We are the people who should be the best judgers, the best discerners of all, because we're the ones who have truth.
Okay, I'm glad you said that, because let's go to Donald Trump. He's the hot potato right now, and I watched him I watched him last night on Sean Hannity, and my discernment rose pretty high quickly by some of the things he was saying, and by some of the things he was succinctly not saying. What's your take on him? Is he for real? Is he psychopathic? Is he pathological? Is he crazy? How are you judging it?
Donald Trump is certainly an interesting guy. I don't know that he's been, we've seen enough of the Don to really know what's going on. I get the sense that there's not a whole lot of depth behind a lot of the shocking things that he says. But I think there's something kind of interesting about the response to Donald Trump that is a bit telling and maybe instructive even for pastors. Perry, why do you think Donald Trump is resonating and leading the pack right now?
Well, my political discernment tells me that he is representing a rejection of the Beltway and the establishment within the Republican Party. In other words, the country's in a mess, and quite frankly, the Republican leadership now has allowed it. And so he is representing a rejection. He's a non-politician coming at it from a business sense, and he's resonating with a lot of people.
Do you think that a part of his charm and appeal is the way that he's talking?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he's talking tough. Yeah.
Yeah. See, I wonder if there isn't a hunger in our country for cutting through the fog and just getting to it. And as I ponder that, I think to myself, is that maybe telling for Christians, not in every circumstance, but that we've got a culture, we've got a world that is just tired of being fed bologna sandwiches, and they would just like to hear the truth. And maybe they actually are interested in hearing us say, no, Jesus actually is the only true and living God, and here's my defense of it. I wonder if we haven't maybe bowed to political correctness and postmodern theory and shied away from being forthright I wonder if the Don can instruct us in that to maybe be just a little bit more courageous and bold.
Well, now that's a fascinating thought.
Perry, one of the things that we've been tracking is we've been watching mega pastors respond to the gay marriage issue. How will they talk about it? And I think how we go through phases on issues. I think the phase that we're in right now is these pastors that like to be politically correct, they're trying chin boogie. Well, everybody's on a journey. And of course, we believe in the Bible, and yet we want to make sure that people are loved. And they're speaking a lot, but they're not saying anything. And I just wonder if people are tired of that, and if they would just like some forthright speech from Christians, to lovingly, not like jerks, which is another way that we're supposed to be judging, speaking truth in love. I wonder if the world maybe, just maybe, isn't at the point where it's hungry for that.
Todd, I need to fly you out here, and we need to do a 13-week series on that subject. Because people are looking for hope. And are these mega pastors giving them hope without discipline? That's the issue I have. We're preaching a good message of hope, but are we doing it without boundaries? In other words, we're not giving the discipleship training that goes behind it, that comes with something more than Jesus is a nice guy and he's a dude and he's here to bless you.
Yeah, well, see, I actually, my perspective on it, Perry, is they actually do have a lot of rules, but they're man-made rules. I see it like this, because they've bought into, we've got to be nice, we don't want to judge anybody. So what do? They take out, say, the commandments of God. Let's lose those 2 tablets. Well, what do you have? You don't have a cross. You don't have anything that talks about God's holiness, his character, his nature, our situation, why Jesus had to die on a cross to redeem sinners. It's all gone. So what do you have to preach? You got to come up with something. So they take out God's rules and they replace them with their rules. And that is why you hear all of these sermons about how to be a better, how to do this job more, how to become more like this. And they give them man-made rules. I think that is more burdensome. And it's not nearly as nice as giving people, here's the bad news. There are laws of God. He's a righteous, holy judge, and he is going to pour out his wrath on lawbreakers. Have you broken the laws? You have? Then you're in big trouble. Here's the good news. And then we can talk about Jesus. But you remove that law, you've got nothing. So they replace it with their own laws, which are inevitably a burdensome yoke of do this, act like that, give like this, and speak like that. Otherwise, you won't be blessed. I think that is very cruel.
All right. Boy, this is great. Like I said, we got to do a series on this, you and I. Let me ask you this, back to the judging thing and just Donald Trump for a moment. I couldn't help but watch the interview last night and judge it, because he is saying, I think in recovery mode, because he accelerated the war on women during the debate, so he had to recover from that. So here's what he did. I'm for Planned Parenthood, but I'm against abortion. Right there, he forced us, people of faith, to accept him or reject him, because we are not discerning evil. And if we don't see Planned Parenthood as evil, then we would have a tendency to accept that narrative that he's putting out.
Statistically, there are over 8,000 non-Planned Parenthood medical centers that perform mammograms in this country, over 8,000. Do you know how many Planned Parenthoods actually give or sell mammograms? Do you know how many clinics there are?
Zero. Yeah.
None. Yeah. What are the good things that they're doing? They're giving out abortifacient birth control. They're giving out some of the poorest manufactured prophylactic devices, I'm sorry, with the intention of failure rates so that they get more business with the high school teenagers. There are other services. They're not pro-life in any regard.
All right, so Donald Trump has set us up for a judgment. Do we accept his explanation or not?
Well, here's what I would. That's a great question. Now, here's what I would say. Now, I want to approach this as biblically as I can, and that's hard for me because I don't know about you, Perry, but I actually have the spiritual gift of nitpicking. So I want to set that aside for a moment. Maybe Donald Trump hasn't been schooled. Maybe he hasn't been educated about Planned Parenthood. Maybe he doesn't understand how they come up with their statistics. Maybe he doesn't understand their cash flow and their big revenue generator. Maybe he doesn't know the percentage of adoptions versus the percentage of abortions. So I will say at this moment, I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. He's ignorant. But if it becomes clear that he's not ignorant, then I'm jumping on it.
Okay, got it. All right, I'll go with that. Well,
and I got to tell you, that's not my favorite thing to do. I mean, because Jesus kind of puts the reins on us and goes, well, just slow your roll a little bit. Watch how you judge. Give the benefit of the doubt. Don't be naive. Don't be taken. We're wise as serpents. We're gentle as doves. But we want to hope for the best as reasonably as we can without being taken advantage of.
Yeah, because I think the struggle we have is how do we reject without being seen as being legalistic?
Yeah, that's because I need to start viewing these people not as the political enemy. They can be that, if you will, but much bigger. They're lost. Hillary Clinton is as lost as a foreign driver without a GPS system. She's lost, and she is her profession of faith and her actions do not match. Barack Obama is a universalist. As hard as it is, I want to make sure that I'm seeing the picture of the war as opposed to the political skirmish. That's the bigger issue. I want them to be saved. So with a heart of compassion, I then talk to them about politics, and that's not easy.
Is it fair to judge the church ourselves because we bought the lie of separation of church and state, therefore we're staying out of politics?
Well, some are staying out of politics. Others are diving in, I think, head first. I think always what we need to remember, like individuals, get involved as much as you can. But when we announce that we are the church or that we are Christians, we have to be doing it a little bit more thoughtfully than just kind of, jumping straight into it, the fray. Right. Because if I'm representing Jesus, I want to make sure that the stumbling block to the gospel I represent doesn't become politics. I want the stumbling block to be the stumbling block, which is Jesus. You can't work your way to heaven. He is the way, the truth, the life. That needs to be my stumbling block. So as a Christian, wow, I am called to a challenging role to enter into the arena in which my compassion is demanded, which can be the political realm. But if I'm going to jump in as a follower of Jesus Christ, I want to make sure that I'm not doing anything to undermine my testimony and give people a reason to hate Jesus. And if you tell me that's easy, wow, then you're a better man or woman than I am.
No, I think you nailed it. That's exactly right. And I think we lose focus of that very thing. We make the stumbling block the issue of the day, not Jesus himself. And that is beautifully said, Todd, beautifully said. Well, you're a delight, man. What are you doing? What are you doing to stay out of jail?
Well, these days, apparently nothing. Wow, I'll tell you, the winds are blowing. The winds are blowing, Perry, and I would like to suggest we keep our eyes. Let's remember we're we're a set apart, we're a different people. 1 Peter 2, just like Israel was supposed to be a light to lighten the Gentiles, the church is supposed to be a light to the nation too. Amen. Let's remember who we are as the world comes crashing in.
Thank you, buddy. Love you, and look forward to having you back soon. Talk to you soon. Say hi to your staff for us. Okay. Todd Friel with Wretched TV, and you can see him weeknights right here on the Dove, prime time. Check it out. We'll see you next time on Focus Today.